Could there exist a master blueprint from ancient times that is determining the events of modern times? Is it possible that an ancient mystery lies behind current events, including the rise and fall of leaders, governments, and even the presidents of the United States? Could a blueprint from the ancient Middle East actually foretell the events of our day so precisely it even reveals when these events must take place, down to the year and even the exact days? The master blueprint in the paradigm even revealed the date of 9/11, years before it took place. From Jonathan Cahn, best-selling author of The Harbinger, The Mystery of the Shemitah, and the Book of Mysteries, comes The Paradigm, the ancient blueprint that holds the mystery of our times. In his most explosive book to date, Jonathan Cahn opens up the master blueprint that is now unfolding before our eyes. How has the paradigm already affected your life, and how will it impact your future? Cahn takes you on a journey from Middle Eastern landscapes to Washington, D.C., from ancient palaces to the White House, from mysterious priests and priestesses to ruthless kings and queens, from gods and goddesses to prophets and holy men. What does the mystery reveal about what lies ahead? And what is the warning it contains? You will be stunned and amazed at the revelations contained in Cahn's most explosive book yet. One thing is certain: once the veil is removed, you will never see the world in the same way again. Find out more when you read Jonathan Cahn's The Paradigm, the ancient blueprint that holds the mystery of our times. Available wherever fine books are sold.
Thank you for joining us at Prophecy in the News. I'm your host, Kevin Clarkson. This is the second of 3 shows we're doing with Jonathan Cahn. Welcome, my brother.
Great to be here, Kevin. Always great to be with you.
Oh, we're excited you could be here. Your new work, The Paradigm, is just riveting. We've already, read it. We've been captured by it, and you want to just kind of viewers saw the introductory clip, but kind of recap for us.
Yeah. In a nutshell, imagine what the paradigm is. It's the master blueprint, really, about what's happening now in our generation, in our lifetime. I mean, and that all the these major events that have happened are all part of an amazing plan that's from the Bible 2,500 years ago. That gives not only what's going to happen, but when they happen. It details the leaders on the world stage, and that each one has a ancient biblical prototype that they're following without realizing it. And the prototype actually gives the time that they're allowed on the world, or allotted on the national stage. The events, in some cases, so specific it can even give the hour of the events. As we saw last time, we ended with 9/11. Years before it happened, it was all there. You could have charted it. And it's going to give the outcome of elections, presidential elections. It also is going to give a warning as well, and for the future, and also the keys for the future as believers. What do we need? There's a paradigm in the paradigm for believers. It's going to take us all the way up to where we are now, and what the prophetic moment is, and what are the issues, because this is kind of like it's from the Bible's view of what's happening in our life. So it's giving us where we are and what we need to do. So that is what the paradigm is, and it's not something that I planned, Kevin. When I was last with you, I had no idea. I mean, no real idea. It came at the beginning of this year like a download, like The Harbinger. So that's a quick overview, and I know we're going to take where we left off. Well, I'll just say this: where we left off. What we did see last time, we saw a nation falling away from God, as ancient Israel did. We saw an acceleration of that fall, as happened with ancient Israel. We saw leaders rise up in ancient Israel as Ahab. Bill Clinton's mystery, he's going to follow the mystery, the paradigm of King Ahab, even down to the years he will have on the national stage. Even the scandals, even would that happen, and he will have, and then Hillary Clinton will follow his wife Jezebel with the issues. And again, I will say this because at the beginning of the program, it's not about the people. We need to pray for the people. That's the only. There's anything else is sin, is pray and love. But the thing is, we need to know the signs of the times and the issues at stake. So we have this whole thing, and it's going to take. It takes us. It actually pinpointed how long Bill Clinton would have, when 9/11 would happen, when the last day of his presidency would happen, the date of the scandal, and all those things. So we took up the Clinton years, the beginning of this, but it's not the end. It's the beginning of the story. It's not the end, and that's where we're going to get to.
That's
now.
pretty amazing. I'm just eager to go forward.
Yeah.
You've recapped, so the king's reign comes to an end,
Yes.
and
Yes.
You talked about when Clinton finished his
Yes,
term, right
yes.
on 22 years, as
and
Ahab did.
22 years, and the actual day is in the paradigm of that. Yes. So
Right.
it ends
2001.
2001, January 20th. And so people, a lot of people, when they hear about Ahab and Jezebel, the idea is they think, okay, Ahab's reign ended, and so did Jezebel. Not what happened. What happens is this, and so think about this. That
What happens to the queen?
Yeah, Ahab's reign comes to an end, but the queen goes on the political stage. So what happens means Bill Clinton's reign comes to an end as president, but Hillary Clinton will go on the political stage for the first time in the history of America. A first lady is going to continue on the political stage. That's exactly what happened.
It never happened before in
Never
Israel
happened.
or America.
Never happened. That's right. Never happened because Jezebel wasn't like other I would say first ladies or queens. Is that you
She
had
wasn't a good Jewish girl.
It wasn't it wasn't exactly a nice. She wasn't Jewish. Wasn't exactly nice. Wasn't Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was also the only one up to that point where the queen is becoming a political force in her own right, has her own court, has her own agenda, is inciting her husband. That's what in the Clinton years he said. Hillary Clinton had her own staff, her own court, and people were saying it's a co-presidency and all. Well, see, here's what happened. So when Ahab ends, Jezebel continues on, not as the queen, but as the former queen, the former first lady, but she dwells in the halls of power. She remains there.
She has influence.
And we know that from what happens later on. She is influencing the government, and she dwells in the capital city. So what happens with Hillary Clinton? She will dwell in the halls of power. She will dwell in the capital city as senator, first as senator, then secretary of state. We'll get there. So she's doing that and she's continuing the same policy. She's staunch for abortion, as in the Clinton years. Staunch. She's one of the few senators who stands up to defend partial birth abortion, which is what happened in the Clinton years. I mean, and I'd say that's gruesome, but that's what happened. That was, for those who didn't see the first part, that's the equivalent of Baal worship when they had child sacrifice, which was being endorsed by Ahab and Jezebel, which was gruesome. But so we have all that, and so that continues on. Now, at one point, Hillary Clinton is going to seek to become the president in 2008, but it won't go to her. But in the paradigm, it doesn't go to her. Certainly not at that time. It doesn't go to her. It goes to a younger man. And so now we go to the next mystery.
You call him the heir.
The heir. In the book and in the DVDs, he's called the heir because this is going to be the mystery of Barack Obama. And what is the mystery of Barack Obama? He's going to follow the paradigm of the man called Joram, King Joram. Joram was the heir to Ahab, and so he becomes king afterwards, and he follows in the footsteps overall of Ahab's policies. Well, Barack Obama is basically politically, he is an heir to the Clintons. He will follow those policies. You have Hillary care becomes Obamacare. You have on abortion, on marriage, on all those things. He's going to follow it, and it's it's not about the person, but it's an amazing thing. First of all, his temperament is different. Joram's temperament is different from Ahab's. Ahab is emotional, all over the place, back and forth, wavering. Well, so was Bill Clinton, but Joram is a cooler temperament. You don't see all that. You can't picture the things that he does. But generally, he doesn't understand God. And so what generally if you read the Bible about Joram, his view of God is kind of hostile, like almost as if God's against him, and it's kind of hostile against God's people. So what's happening in the days of Obama, it's not about the person, but the policies are overwhelmingly hostile to the biblical values and biblical people and religious freedom again and again and again and again. So there's much to say. It's all in the book and in the things. But there's another thing that happens. When Joram comes to the throne, he doesn't come alone. When he comes to the throne, with him is the former first lady in the throne, Jezebel. She's not the queen, but she's an advisor. Well, first time in history, when Obama comes to power, the White House, he's not alone. He has the former first lady, first time in history, part of the cabinet. So you have all that. But now we have another mystery here. And the other mystery is somebody who's not from America. He's another figure. He's from another land. And in the days of Ahab, a man rises up, and in the book and in the album, he's called the Nemesis. Who's the Nemesis? Guy rises up, he becomes the arch enemy of the nation, and he threatens to bring destruction on the nation. In the days of Ahab, he rises up. And he comes from the east, and a land to the east of the other. He will attack the easternmost city, or the eastern city of Israel, of that land. And his name will be, if you put it into Arabic, begins with B-I-N. The ancient nemesis is Bin. In Hebrew, it's Ben Hadad, or Bin Hadad. So there's going to be a nemesis that's going to rise up in the days of the Clintons, the modern counterpart, and he's going to come from the east. He's going to threaten America, threaten with destruction from the east. He's going to attack from the east, and his name will be Bin Laden. They will follow. The mystery of Bin Laden. He's going to follow the paradigm of Ben Hadad. And the thing is, at one point in the paradigm, Ahab is given. God delivers the enemy, the nemesis, into Ahab's hand. But Ahab, instead of taking him out or imprisoning him, lets him go free, which is going to bring destruction on the land. Well, could it be then the paradigm, could it be that Bill Clinton had the opportunity to take out bin Laden and didn't? Well, the 9/11 Commission found that that's exactly what happened. He had the chance to take him out. He decided to let him go. And it didn't happen once. It happened 9 times. And it ended up bringing destruction. In fact, I was going to share this, but in fact, Bill Clinton would actually boast later on after his presidency. He would say, I had the chance to take out bin Laden, but I decided not to. He said that on September 10th, 2001. A few hours later came 9/11. Now, what happens afterward? After the nemesis brings destruction on the land, what happens? Well, remember the hunt for bin Laden was the biggest manhunt in history. Went cold. They didn't know what happened to him. Nobody knew what happened for years. The paradigm revealed what was going to happen. The paradigm says that the ancient nemesis, first of all, here's what's going to happen according in the ancient story. The nemesis can't move. He can't get out of his chamber. He's got to stay where he is. But he uses a courier to send messages. Well, that's exactly what bin Laden did. And through the ancient nemesis, through his courier, he's going to get killed. It was through bin Laden's courier. The CIA had no idea until one day they found his courier. They followed him. It led them to that compound in Pakistan. Okay. But the paradigm says that what happens is the ancient enemy is lying in bed when the assassination begins. Bin Laden will be lying in bed when the assassination begins. When the assassination comes, the assassin will come into his bedroom and execute him in his bedroom. That's exactly what would happen to bin Laden. And when that happens, who is in power? In the paradigm, it's Joram. That means it's Obama who's in power. Well, and Joram is with Jezebel in the palace. Well, Obama and Clinton, remember that famous picture?
Yes.
When the assassination taking place. But could the paradigm even give the timing of when this would happen? Well, here's the thing. The paradigm does. It says this: the nemesis will bring destruction on the land. Then he will have 10 years to live. In the 10th year, he will be assassinated. 9/11 was 2001, bin Laden. 2011, that's 10 years, 2011, bin Laden will have 10 years to live, and he will be assassinated in the 10th year, just as in the paradigm.
Wow.
Now, we did this in the first program. We said, well, how long did Bill Clinton have on the national stage? It was 22 years. How long was Ahab? 22 years. Okay, but Obama's a different story. Obama, nobody knew about Obama. I mean, he was a state senator. Nobody knew him. Even outside of Chicago, nobody knew him. All of a sudden, that changed overnight, and we remember that time. It was when he spoke at that Democratic convention. He gave the keynote address.
Speech. Yeah.
Overnight, this guy who nobody knew suddenly is elevated. He could become president. 2 years later, he's running for president, and then he's president. So when was that? So when did it begin? It was 2004. That was that convention when he gave that speech. 2004, he enters the national stage. Okay, how long does it last? His last year as president is 2016. So you can do the math. Comes out to 12 years. In fact, when Obama spoke at this last convention to nominate Hillary Clinton, his first words were 12 years ago tonight. It was on the exact time. 12 years of Barack Obama. You can look it up on the web, 12 years of Barack Obama. If you open up to 2 Kings, his prototype, look at his prototype, 3, Joram. It says, and Joram reigned in Samaria for a period of 12 years. 12 years of Barack Obama were determined by the 12 years of King Joram. Just as with Clinton. I mean, again, to the year, to the timing. And now what happens now? The years that we're bringing it up to right where we are. What happens in the days of Joram? Israel gets to a crossroads. If the house of Ahab continues reigning, the nation's finished. The apostasy is sealed. Religious freedom is going to be wiped out. The people of God are going to be underground. All that. But there comes a surprise. What happens with America? We come to an election, 2016. We are at a crossroads. It's not about parties, but it is about issues. If the Democratic Party had won, it would have sealed the Supreme Court. It would have sealed the apostasy, abortion. It would have sealed religious freedom. We can't even imagine what would have happened.
Different direction entirely.
Gigantic. And in fact, Kevin, if you remember the convention that they had, it was the most brazenly anti-biblical convention. For the first time in their history, they celebrated abortion. They had Planned Parenthood. They vowed we're going to strike down the Hyde Amendment, which has been there since the 70s, saying that your money cannot go directly to fund abortion. Well, our money would have gone there. And that was the same election when the first speech of Hillary Clinton was, that's when the first speech of her campaign, or since she announced it, was deep-seated religious beliefs have to be changed, our beliefs. So the stakes were gigantic. But what happens with Israel? A surprise happens. And the surprise is going to be the mystery of Donald Trump. People say, well, Donald Trump, what's going on? We can't explain him. How do we explain this guy? Well, the paradigm, he's right there like clockwork at the right time, at the exact time of the paradigm. And the mystery of Donald Trump is going to, in the book and in the series, the album, it's called The Warrior. And the mystery is going to be a man called Jehu. Jehu was not a politician. Donald Trump is not a politician. He was not Jehu was a fighter. Donald Trump's a fighter. He fights with everybody. In fact, I'm convinced that if you look at the original Hebrew, you'll find that Jehu had a Twitter account. But we're not going to go in there.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not serious. Okay, but the thing is that Jehu was a warrior. And what happens is, this is a guy that Elijah was supposed to anoint, but we don't know he ever did. So Elisha sends a prophet to go to the military camp and anoint this guy. And he goes to Jehu, who's a commander, and says, Jehu, he says, the Lord has called you, anointed you to become leader, to become the king of Israel, and you're going to fight, you're going to end the house of Ahab. You're going to fight the house of Ahab. Okay, so here's what happened. He's anointed. And another thing about Donald Trump, well, about Jehu, the guy was unpredictable. You couldn't predict what he's going to do. He was wild. At times he seemed out of control. You couldn't predict him. And same with Donald Trump. And he relies on speed. He throws his enemies off guard, his opponents off guard. So what happens? He anoints this guy. Jehu he launches a race to the throne. He's launching a race to the throne. And so what happens, literally, he gets in a chariot as a race. Well, Donald Trump launches his race to the throne. And so he goes, and amazing, and really cool if you say that God has a sense of humor. As Jehu is racing in the chariot, the watchman at Jezreel looks and sees him coming and says, we can't say, I'm not sure who he is, but the driving is like that of Jehu, for he driveth furiously. Well, you want to describe the race of Donald Trump, he drove furiously. In fact, the Hebrew word is shageh, which means he drove crazy. The race was, you want to describe the race of Donald Trump? Crazy.
I remember just the pace, if I can.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I remember the pace, and I remember that the man didn't seem to sleep. He just stayed up around the clock. He would
That's
be
what they said.
Campaigning and traveling, get to bed after midnight, tweeting out at 4 a.m.
That's what they said.
Unbelievable.
They said he never stopped, and really remember all.
I heard him called a racehorse.
Yeah, and everybody, even Christians, because we were Christians were torn. We're saying this is this is the craziest race we ever had in our
Right.
history. Well, the word is in the Bible says crazy. So yet Jehu gets there, even though it's a crazy race, he gets there, and Donald Trump got there. Now, what happens when he gets there? He gets there to Jezreel, and something is revealed at that time. It's revealed that it turns out that Jehu was actually there in the vineyard of Naboth when Ahab got that prophecy from Elijah. He says, remember when this happened? He reminds. So Jehu was actually, it turns out he was a friend of Ahab. He was an acquaintance. He was on the wrong side of the culture war. He was for Baal. He was for child sacrifice. He was defending the kingdom of Baal. So he was on the wrong side, but then he switched. Then he turned, and he turned to the right side, and he turned for life and against Baal and against. Well, Donald Trump. Well, what does that tell? Donald Trump was on the wrong side. He was an acquaintance of the Clintons. He was for abortion. It was all wrong. But he turned and he became pro-life. He became pro-life. He was and he just like Jehu. And what it tells you is that God can raise up. People say, well, was Donald Trump, has he lived a godly life? No, he hasn't. There's no question about that. But that's not the question. Neither did Jehu. But can God use someone who has not known him to serve his purposes? And the answer is absolutely yes. He does it over and over again. He did it with Jehu, and he did it with Donald Trump.
He does.
Yeah.
I mean, he says the heart of the king
Yeah.
is in his hand. He
Yeah.
turns it whithersoever he will.
That's right.
And Let me just
Yeah.
stop and invite you who are watching to know how you might learn more about this fascinating paradigm that Jonathan Cahn has been sharing with us. This is his newest book. It goes into great detail about this. The Paradigm, the Ancient Blueprint that holds the mystery of our times. We're making this available through our online bookstore or calling our number, 800 number on the screen, our website, prophecyinthenews.com. Finding our bookstore there, you can order this for $21.95 plus shipping and handling. But we are also offering more information than is here in the books. It's called The Paradigm Uncensored, and it's 2 4-hour DVD sets, a total of 8 hours, that elaborate on all of this with Jonathan teaching it live, giving a lot of information that's not in the book.
That's why it's called Uncensored. There are things in there I could not get into that is even more explosive. There are things in each that are not in the other,
Explosive stuff.
but this also has the Arch of Baal and covenants that have determined history. It's
If you want
Yeah.
these, they're $29.95 each, plus shipping and handling. Or you can get all the bundle together for $69.95. And if you do that, we're going to send you a copy of his first book, The Harbinger, which really the themes all tie in. It's the same period of apostasy going on and same issues.
It's the same. They intersect. We're going to see it in the last when we do our last moment. When we talk about the future, they intersect with each other. Totally intersect. So there's too much that I can do on either one. But yeah. So I try to put it in there. But yeah, the one of the things is the Harbinger shows the signs, the warning signs that happen in the last days of Israel. But the paradigm is showing that everything else that we're experiencing is part of the mystery too. It's not just that. All these events, our lives are part of. It's like we're inside a harbinger, and that's what. So they really intersect, and especially when we talk about the potential about the future and things to come.
Well, we are literally galloping toward a clash.
Yes, we are.
Yehu is in the chariot. He's
Yes.
galloping.
Yes, we are.
And we're headed up to
Yes.
the royal city. Tell us what's going to happen.
And you said Yehu, which is his real name. I don't know if you meant
That's
that.
Jewish,
Yeah,
yes.
that's his real name. That's
Well, I've
Yehu.
heard people call Donald Trump some Yehu, so
Well, that's another thing. Yeah.
that's another thought. But
Really.
anyway.
Yep. So it comes down. So now this is what happens in the paradigm. It comes down to a showdown between now listen, you'll recognize it right away, between the warrior and the former first lady. It will come down to Jehu versus Jezebel. Well, that's exactly what happens in America. And I mean, and when you look at it, I mean, if you didn't know anything else, all you knew was the paradigm. All you knew was what was in the Bible. You have a man, you got a warrior who's a bit wild, a bit, and yet on the other side you have the former first lady, and who is for we could say abortion or child sacrifice, and who's a grandmother actually at that time. Jezebel was a grandmother at this time, by the way. And so it comes down to this showdown. Now what happens is that you have at that moment, now people know this. A lot of people know this from Sunday school or of course you as a pastor know it. But what's that final showdown scene? Jehu is coming to the palace, and up in the palace on the window is Jezebel. Jezebel looks out, and Jezebel puts on makeup. Now, people sometimes interpret that she's trying to seduce him. It's unlikely. She's a grandmother. Not likely going to happen. Jehu's not ready for that. Not going to happen. But most likely she's adorning herself as a queen. And it even says she adorned her head, which most likely she puts a crown on her head. She adorns. She's a Jezebel's a very, how do you explain, kind of prideful. And she's looking down literally, she's looking down at Jehu. But she's sarcastic. When she sees Jehu, she's sarcastic to Jehu at that time. So she kind of taunts him from the window. So the interesting thing is that if you remember, what was Hillary Clinton doing, and what was the Clinton camp doing on the day when this all happened? She's preparing her own coronation.
That's right.
And it literally said it. The media, who was for her, said she's preparing her own coronation, and she was preparing fireworks over New York City, and everything. It was going to be a big celebration.
And do you realize even this Halloween, she was asked what she would dress up as, and she said the next president of the United States.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Happy Halloween.
She hadn't
Really?
laid that mask down yet.
Really? Well, and the thing is that, and interesting, here's another thing, Kevin. Where was, well, I'll put it this way. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on the day of the election, they happened to both be in the same state and city, New York, because they're both New Yorkers, or sort of. But they both were next to each other. So on the day of his defeat, well, in the paradigm, it turns out that Jehu and Jezebel are each in the nation's chief northeastern city when this all happens. And the thing is, here's another thing. Everybody was saying, you know, that Clinton is going to win, is going to wipe out the Democrats. It's going to be a decisive wipeout for Donald Trump. You remember that? Every major poll. But the paradigm and the Word of God would, if you read this paradigm, would say something totally different. It says when the warrior comes head to head with the former First Lady, the former First Lady will fall, and the warrior will be triumphant. And that's exactly what this was the biggest surprise. Remember, everybody was shocked. I mean, the Democrats were shocked. The Republicans were shocked. I think Donald Trump was shocked.
Well, and the media's still not over it.
Well, they're still in shock.
And the resistance is still going on.
But that's right. And that's going to, when we do, I know we do the next show, we're going to get to that, exactly what you just said. And so what happens is, but it's clear, according to the Bible, he had to win. And it was almost like, you know, it was by all these quirks and the electoral college, but it's still, in the paradigm, he had to win. So, because this is the next part of God's plan here. So he wins. Okay. And I'll share something that wasn't in the first version of the book, but I only came to me afterwards, but then we put it in. This is like a crazy thing, but it's eerie. When Hillary Clinton was nominated, or the day that she would get the nomination, you know, there were speeches made celebrating her. This one speech, this guy makes this speech celebrating her and lifting her up. And the whole speech, you can see this on the web, the whole speech is summed up by the phrase that he keeps repeating and repeating. He said, they threw her down, they threw her down, they threw her down as First Lady, they threw her down as Senate, they threw her down, they threw her down. That's weird to say that.
It is weird.
They threw her down, type it into your web. It'll take you to the Bible.
That's right.
It'll take you to Jehu and Jezebel. It'll take you to the showdown, take you to the exact verse that says the downfall of the First Lady. I mean, eerie.
She's in the window.
And it says, the Bible says, and they threw her down. It was prophetic, said on the day of her nomination.
Incredible. Well, that's about all our time for this show. We've got another barn burner to go. You don't want to miss it. Our guest is Jonathan Cahn. Let me just say, you know, as certain as a whole Democratic Party or even a whole nation and national press were certain that something was going to be the outcome and God had a different decree and it happened, it's going to be that way with every one of us. You can make your plans, you can do your life, do your thing, but if you don't really align with God, in the end, God will overrule all your plans. He will prevail. He is the Lord. He is King of Kings. And you know, the great thing is He loves you. And He wants to bring you back to His loving heart. And if you've never given your life to Jesus Christ, His Son, Jesus died for your sins and rose again. Call on His name. Trust Him and be born again today. And join us who are so excited for His return and keep looking up.